So, metal tray, we are going to demonstrate how to knock this thing out of metal. You should have already made the practice out of paper, so you know the measurements. 3 inches wide, 6 inches long, 1.5 inches tall, 1/4 inch hems all the way around, and then our 1/2 inch tabs. So to do this, we need a flat sheet of metal, and you should also know what that measurement is because we've showed it to you already. If we were to make a net, math term, unfold a 3D shape and flatten it out, the two-dimensional size that we need before we can fold this up is 6.5 inches by 9.5 inches. So I need to get a chunk of steel, sheet metal, that measures that. I'm going to start over here with my big sheet. And remember, if we are out of these, if we're out of these sheets, you should be able to measure, mark on a larger sheet with the Sharpie, 23 inches. We make this 23 inches wide, and then get it all set up so that I can use the electric shears and cut it off. All right. If you don't remember how to do that, go back to the Joining Lab videos. I believe it's either the first one is the introduction. The second one is when you start cutting. So it's the very first part of the second Joining Lab video. Shows you how to get this piece of metal. That's only if we're out of these over there. So we're going to start by, from this edge, we're going to measure up 9.5 inches. All right, let's get the camera relocated. So 9.5 inches. We're going to grab our scratch awl. Got to do it the old-fashioned way with the ruler, the scratch awl. Make sure you go 9.5 and not 8.5. That's a common mistake people make, is they see the 9 and they go, well, that's a 1/2 inch back, so that's 9.5. Not what we're doing. 9.5 inches. Mark 2 arrows. Scratch a line. And after we've got scratched, again, don't stab my table when you do this. After you've got it scratched, measure twice. So we only have to cut once. Looks great. So we're going to go over to the shears and we're going to cut that line. All right, let's head over and do that. So we're actually going to show you how to use the stomp shear. We're going to get our metal in there, and again, same as with our other shear, we need to not use the ruler on this edge first, because this edge is very goofy, curvy, not straight. It was cut by hand with the electric shear. It's not going to be straight. You can do this step on either shear. So if there's a bunch of people at the smaller shear, we can come do it over here. So I'm going to slide this through, and we're going to line it up behind this yellow hold down bar. And slide my line through. It's a little easier to see on this one. We're going to get that lined up. There it is. Okay. Looks good. And we're going to step on the pedal, lowers that. We're going to get up on here when everybody's toes are out of the way. We've got a cord we've got to move. All right. And looking good, so we give her a little hop. This piece can go back for the next group. And the drop falls on the ground behind the shear. There's our piece. There should be enough metal here for 3 people. So I need to square this end off. cut that off. Now I am using the rule on the edge. And with this, you got to push it into the steel rule here and make sure it doesn't slide. For some reason, the hold down bar seems to kind of pull it over just a little bit. So lower that, holding it down. All right. So now we don't have to measure. This should be 9.5 inches. We need 6.5. So I'm going to slide it through that way. I'm going to put it right there on the edge. 6.5. And cut it. All right. So we have a 6.5 by 9.5 squared piece of steel, sheet metal, that we're ready to start laying out our box on. So we're going to need the dividers, our steel rule, and let's go get it laid out. Alright, so just like we've done with our other stuff so far, make sure you put your name on this. And we've got our name on it. We're going to, again, just like we did with the paper one, start from the outside, work our way in. So the first thing, again, was the hem. And our hems are 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to set my dividers to 1/4 of an inch. And notice I'm using a rubber mat. Oops. All 4 sides. One-4 of an inch. Now, as you recall, the sides of that metal tray are 1.5 inches tall when it's finished. 1.5 inches. But that hem, if we were to leave it unfolded, would have made it 1 3/4 inches. So we can do it the hard way with the ruler, and we can measure over, mark 2 arrows, scratch line, 1.5 inches, or like we practiced with the paper tray, if I set my dividers to 1 3/4, there's right there, tighten that up. Now when I scratch from the outside edge, this, between this line and the hem line, is 1.5. So I'm going to do that 4 times. And again, this is the point where we can check and see if we're doing it right. This rectangle in the center should measure 3 inches by 6 inches. So I'm going to lay my ruler on here. Measure twice and just check it. 6 inches, looks good that way. And, ooh, perfect. 3 inches. So we only have a few simple things left and we're ready to cut. We need to do the hems. This part does happen with your rule, your steel rule, and the scratch-all. So we're going to pick a side. If I go this way, all of my tabs need to go this way. If I go this way, all of my tabs need to go that way. Okay? So I'm going to go out from here 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch out. Half an inch out. And again, I'm not going to draw the line through the side. It only goes in these squares. But I'm kind of cheating, and I can do that tab and that tab at the same time. So I'm coming over here. My lines are pretty faint. Hope you can see that. But over here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm coming from the side over 1/2 inch. Half an inch there. Half an inch there. Line up my arrows. And just again, in the boxes, does not need to go through the side. Measure twice, double check, looks good. All right, so I have the rectangles for my tabs, but now I gotta put the angles on the tab and the hem. And this is exactly the same as on the paper tray. We just go diagonally. So if I go diagonally across this square, and we're using the square, not any rectangles, it's an actual square, I can do three things. I can do the hem, the tab, and this other hem. Then I go diagonally this way, and I can do that other corner on the tab. So it might be kind of hard to see. After you get all this done, you can bring this up to me and I will mark one corner for you where you cut. But again, just like on the paper tray, that is what the piece that we cut out the corner is going to look like. So I got to do this 3 more times. All the angles on the hems, don't forget the hems. We sometimes, actually quite often, seem to forget that we're not doing just tabs, we are also doing hems. Oops. I'll go this way, finish them off. And we're done. All right, so like I said, you're gonna bring this up to me after, like at this point right here, when you've got all your tabs, all your hems marked. I'm gonna look and make sure we didn't forget these little guys, the angles on the hems. And then I'm gonna show you this. To cut these corners out, it's not like scissors. We can't cut around corners. It's pretty hard to do with metal. We have to do 3 steps, 3 individual cuts. The first cut is this line. All of that gets cut off. You can do this with 2 different tools. You can use either the brake, so either of the brakes, or the notcher. Probably the notcher is the easiest. That's what I'm going to show you how to do. But if there's a great big long line at the notcher, you can cut this line, all 4 corners. You can cut that little triangle off with a squaring shear. That's the first one. The second one is this little triangle right there. This has to be done on the notcher because we're cutting a 90-degree corner, and if you remember, the blade on the notcher comes to a 90-degree point. The last piece is this little corner, that little triangle right there. This cannot be done on the notcher. If you try and cut that on the notcher, it's going to cut a big old, this huge chunk off, and you're going to have a big hole in the side of your box. We have to do this little triangle, that last little triangle has to be done with the aviation snips. So let's head over to the notcher, show you how to do this.